Hi, I'm Christy Turner. We're going to do Chapter 5 of the Personal Training Certification, Fitness Assessment and Testing. Now, in a fitness assessment, hopefully you've met your client before, but things that you need to know are details of their medical history, different diseases they may have, health states that may dictate how you prescribe their exercise, past injuries. You want to know what they feel about exercise. Are they there because their doctor or their spouse asked them to be there, or is there something they want to get better at? That goes along with what their goals are. And also, what have they been doing? Have they been doing anything at all? Do they think they've been working out, but maybe they really haven't? Just the things that you need to find out before you even have them do one part of this assessment. Now, before you do a fitness assessment, make sure you have a medical release. There are things that you could be asking them to do, and someone may not know that they can't do it either. So make sure they have a release from their physician. Also, something that releases you of liability as well. When you're gathering information, make sure you don't diagnose them with anything either. Go by what a physician has told them, and also make sure you probe as much as you possibly can to find out something that's hidden inside the recesses of their mind. Also, learning about your client. What do they like to do? Gear their workout around that, because like we talked about before, that will improve their retention. And then goal setting, set different types of goals, short and long term. Something that's attainable and realistic. Now, in the fitness test itself, you are going to want to know these 7 things. You want to know their heart rate, their resting heart rate, and their target heart rate for training values. What's their blood pressure? Height and weight, body composition and ideal weight, cardiorespiratory endurance, muscular strength and endurance, and flexibility. I will go through each of these in greater detail in a little bit different order, but I will hit on each of these, a little bit of the why and the how. And also, your book is a resource as itself, full of different tests and formulas that you can use as well. All right, first I'm going to start with the heart rate. Now we know what the heart rate is. That's your beats per minute. So it's an easy indicator of your cardiac health. It's obvious that the heart is going to be wherever your client is. So taking your heart rate, we know how to do that, carotid or radial. But as we learned in our cardiovascular training, we were going to look at their target heart rate. So in their determining their training target heart rate, we're going to find out what their age predicted max heart rate is. That is 220 minus their age. Know that formula. Tattoo it on your brain. 220 minus their age. Now, to determine what level your client should be working in, base that on their fitness level. Are they just starting? Are they an elite athlete? We have different ranges that you want to automatically assign to that client. Now, an example of how to work out the math of this, we will use a 20-year-old. We will subtract 20 from 220 to get their age predicted max heart rate. They are a beginner, so we're going to work out between 60 and 70% of their target heart rate. 60 to 70% of their max heart rate. So 200, which was the age predicted max heart rate, times 60%. And if you remember from probably 7th grade math, if you multiply by a percentage, you want to multiply 200 by 0.60. Same thing with the 70%. Those two numbers are going to give you your target heart rate range. So this 20-year-old beginner wants to work out between 120 and 140 beats per minute. Sometimes We don't have time to stand around, or you don't want to stand around for a minute and have them stopped from activity for that long. So we can do a 10-second count as well. So in 60 seconds, in a minute, because we're talking about beats per minute, there are 6 10-second segments. So instead, we can take a heart rate for 10 seconds. In this particular example, 120-40 beats per minute comes down to 20 to 23 beats per 10-second count. All I did with that number was divide these two by 6. Now, Carvonen's formula. Carvonen is the man who did the research and proposed this formula. He is involving what we learned is a resting heart rate, when the body is at rest. And what rest is lying down in a dark room with no distractions. It's not, I just came into the gym and met my trainer for the first time and sat down in a chair and they took my heart rate. Resting needs to truly represent rest, a calm mind and body. So in this example, 220 minus the age, just like we did before with max heart rate to find the target heart rate range, we're going to still find that same age predicted max heart rate, but we're going to subtract the resting heart rate from it. That we're going to call the heart rate reserve. The heart rate reserve then is multiplied by the desired intensity percentage. Then that number has the resting heart rate added back in, and that is the target heart rate using Carvonen's formula. I have another example using our same beginning 20-year-old, but as you can see, his resting heart rate I'm lying. The example is not Carvonen's. It is showing you the target heart rate low and the target heart rate high. Now, in the different example, we are multiplying a different part of the age. And you can see this calculation more in Chapter 6 with cardiovascular training. Okay. RPE is another way to assess heart rate. During a fitness test, maybe you're doing a cardiovascular test and you have someone that's taking beta blockers, their heart rate is going to be affected differently than someone not taking that medication. So your heart rate formulas and calculations are not going to be as effective. You would need to rely on the rate of perceived exertion. It is a 0 to 20 scale or 0 to 10. Depends on your preference and comfortability and your client with assessing a number to their level of intensity. Now the blood pressure, just a refresher on what blood pressure is, it is the pressure exerted on the blood vessel walls. We have a systolic and a diastolic number, and also, unless you are a physician, you cannot diagnose someone with hypertension. So make sure you don't do this to someone, a client that has come in and you are doing their fitness assessment. But just for a reminder, classification of blood pressure for adults. Normal is considered anything under 130 for the systolic number and less than 85 for the diastolic number. Systolic is the number on top, diastolic on the bottom. If any of these numbers are high, it is considered hypertensive, but once again, we are not responsible for diagnosing someone with hypertension. If someone does have high blood pressure, one of your clients, please feel free to suggest ways that they can lower their blood pressure through quitting smoking, losing weight, eating a healthier diet, reducing alcohol consumption, exercising regularly, and taking their blood pressure medicine as prescribed. Why this is important is a constantly elevated blood pressure can lead to heart disease, heart attack, heart failure, kidney failure, and or stroke. Height and weight. Make sure you have a reliable scale to use. Height and weight, we have a good correlation between someone's height and weight. We call it BMI, and it's a good way to categorize people, not necessarily most sound for their minds and their hearts, but as a client to come up with a goal for them. Maybe they don't know that they have an issue with their weight and that it's not healthy, or it is healthy. Maybe they think they are too heavy and they're truly not. So looking at someone's height compared to their weight is a great way to help associate them with what a healthy weight is. Now, ideal weight is taking into account someone's body composition. Ideal weight refers to the fat-free mass or lean body mass and someone's fat mass. Mass, remember, is, or their weight, is the amount of them pressing down on the scale. Weight does not tell you how much someone is muscle or fat or bones or hair. So calculating how much of what someone's lean body weight is also can help us figure out how many calories they may need based on their lean body tissue. We cover that in chapter 6 as well. So, ideal weight, you would take the total weight times the body fat percentage, and you're able to figure out what, I guess, the number of pounds that someone has of fat mass on their body. Based on that, you can figure out, you take the total weight minus the fat weight, you're able to know the lean weight. Now, any of these equations can be manipulated based on you knowing certain things. Maybe someone has an ideal weight that they need to be. Maybe they're a boxer and they want to be in a certain category where you can figure out where they need to change different parts of their body to make this part of the equation. You know what that number is, so what do you need to change in the rest of the equation? Now, fitness testing, addressing cardiovascular endurance, you're going to perform a test that mimics cardiovascular exercise, so you want it to involve large muscle groups. You can test maximally or submaximally. Generally, your average personal trainer will not be administering a maximal cardiovascular test. It involves a lot of equipment that a gym, really basically a university or hospital setting, will have access to. So submaximal testing for cardiovascular endurance. The types of tests you can do: submaximal cycle ergometer, a bicycle test. You can also do tests on the treadmill, a step test, it's a 3-minute test, and a 12-minute walk-run test, or a 1.5 mile test for time. All of these testing procedures are in your manual. You can refer them and always look back to them when you're trying to find a way to assess your client. Any given test may not work for every client. All tests could work for one client, or none of them could work for a client. The most important thing when it comes to any type of testing procedure is you have a baseline number to compare it to. And when you do your testing, you want to administer the test in the same way both times, or every time if you're looking over a prolonged period of examination. Next, muscular strength and endurance. Types of tests for muscular strength and endurance: hand grip strength, that requires a handy dandy tool. The 1 rep max bench press and the 1 rep max seated leg press, those are for muscular strength. When you're talking about 1 rep, you're referring to muscular strength. You can also do a more of an endurance-based muscular test, and that would require a higher rep. Now, typically someone with a high blood pressure, you're not going to necessarily want to 1 rep max them out. There's also the push-up test, the 1-minute timed sit-up test, and the partial curl-up strength and endurance test. These are all field tests. They require minimal equipment or average equipment. Also, with this fitness testing, you can categorize someone in a fitness level with this, or based on these tests, that's how you will structure their exercise program. Flexibility. Remember, flexibility is the ability of a body to move through its entire range of motion. That doesn't mean 360 degrees, but whatever that body part is designed to be able to move through, and you're trying to measure it. The best way to measure a client's flexibility is through trunk flexion and what we call the sit and reach test. Next, we'll be talking about body composition, which will involve a little bit more hands-on pictures. We'll go through that series of slides.